let's talk about what could we do to increase the contact to dial ratio. How many dials we're making to how many people we contact. What are some ideas on this one? I know there's going to be less.
Numbers. Stop calling them.
Perfect. What else? Mark, if you call someone, it's a bad number, mark it a bad number so you don't waste time calling it again.
Call them from different numbers. This one specifically works great for me because my number is not a San Diego area code. And so when I call people from a non-San Diego area code, a lot of the time they answer.
Really?
Expired.
Oh, this is fun.
Dial it twice. If they're in do not disturb and you call back to back, it blows through their do not disturb and it will ring.
Yeah, that's a little trick called war dialing. You guys would be amazed at what happens with, especially on a new lead. A lead comes in, you call it, they don't answer, hang up, call it a second time. They don't answer, hang up, call it a third time. What you call 3 times. Now, let's be honest. How many of you guys, as soon as I said that, you like cringed a little? Why? Because your fucking dumb head is talking you out of it. There's this drunk monkey in your head that says like, oh my gosh, if I call them 3 times, they're going to yell at me.
If they do, tell them you forgot to leave a voice.
Yeah, they're going to yell at you. That's your biggest concern right now. They're going to yell at you. Yeah, you could yell at me all day. If any of you guys want, I'll literally sit there and $1,000 an hour. You can just yell at me straight. Full hour. These people are going to yell at you for 5 seconds. You could yell at me for $1,000 an hour. I'll sit there for 24 straight hours. You could yell at me all day. And then I'll go buy a car.
Usually with a new lead, I call twice, leave a voicemail, an email, and a text. That's what I do, and they usually respond.
So, in addition to the call, follow up with a text and an email.
How can you war dial them if you're on like a circle dialer or the other dialer where you're just blowing through a list?
Reload the list.
You can't.
Reload it as soon as you're
gotta
done.
reload the list. I
Okay.
don't know of a way.
On the dialer, some of them have a redial.
Okay.
I click redial.
Can you? Okay.
Okay.
If we're calling on the pond, is it advisable to leave a message? What's the best strategy for that?
Rachel, go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
Oh, here.
Leave messages in the pond because it kills the integrity of the data because those people haven't connected with. If you only leave messages once you've connected them and then you're in your name, the rule of the pond is you only leave messages, you only text them once you guys have had 2-way communication, then they're your lead.
Raise your hand if you've ever returned a voicemail call from a sales call, cold call. Any of you ever called them back? There you go. Don't leave a voicemail.
I do leave a message. And my message says, hi, this is Andrew. Call me back when you get this. So they're wondering who Andrew is. And I actually do get calls back sometimes.
Cool. What are a couple other things you can do to increase your deal to contact ratio? I'm sorry, your dial to contact ratio. Yes. So time of day, statistically, if you make your calls between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock or 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, you have 71% higher answer rate than if you're calling outside those hours, simply just by the time of day that you call. And here's the logic behind the math is that calling too early is not an ideal time because people are just getting either trying to get ready to go to work, trying to get the kids to school, just got to work, catching up on shit, all those things. So the earlier hours tend to be a little bit tougher. And this is more recent data. There's old data that was from MIT and this thing called the Lead Response Management Survey, which is over a decade old. There's a newer survey from a company called Call Hippo that's more accurate and more recent. Because I've been waiting for somebody to come up with recent data because I'm like, this is stupid. We're relying on 10-plus-year-old data because 10+ years ago, people were on razors, like literally on like tap, 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 C, tap, 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 U, tap, tap, X. Like people were texting like that 10 years ago. So things have changed. So there's data from Call Hippo is actually supporting that 10 to 12. Now, obviously, you're calling expireds. It's different because you got to be the first one to call them. But if you're making general phone calls, 10 to 12 and 4 to 6 are the best times of day to call right now. And so it's because in the morning, people are getting kids ready, just getting to work, just trying to get some stuff done. But then right before lunch, they tend to be freed up. They have a little bit more time before lunch. They're more open to having a conversation. Same thing with 4 to 6. By that time, most people are done with all the work they needed to do for the day, and they're in transit on their way home from work, and you have a lot higher contact rate there. So 10 to 12, 4 to 6. In addition, the day of the week they found, and this data has changed a lot too, Wednesday and Thursday by a substantial margin are the 2 best days of the week to call. Friday, worst day of the week to call. Monday and Tuesday, okay. Monday morning, no. Like if I was making my calendar and I was blocking time on Monday, it would be 4 to 6. It would not be 10 to 12. Their data doesn't have the weekends on it. I don't know why. But Saturday mornings I like. Yeah, their report did not have weekends, just had weekdays, because they assume like that's when callers are calling. But they tracked a lot of data. It's like 3 months of data, thousands and thousands of dials. It's a solid report. So just the right days of the week. So just focusing on making your calls on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Like if the ideal weekly schedule that we shared with all of you guys, we recommend you take a day off. Friday, probably the best day to take off, because it's one of the worst days to make phone calls. And it's kind of nice to recharge the batteries before the weekend when you're going to be doing open houses. You're going to be hand-to-hand combat with people. It's nice to be fresh as opposed to being exhausted when the weekend rolls around. So if I was picking a day off, especially based on the most recent data, Friday is my day off. Like if I'm taking one day off, plus Friday's a fun day to have off, right? So if there's one day a week I'm taking off, it's Friday. The data supports it. The other piece of data is the number of attempts that we're making to people. If you can go from making 1 attempt, your probability of connection is about 30%. If you can go to 6 attempts, it's 70%. But statistically, most people aren't even making a phone call. The data supports the majority of salespeople don't even make 1 call. If they, bless you, if they make any calls, it's 1. Very few people make second, and our data supports this shit too. Because right, let's look, especially. Oops. Let's look on here, right? Like you guys are making pretty much 1 attempt, maybe 2 attempts, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like you guys aren't attempting people more than once. The segments are set up, but you guys are just bullshitting your segments so that you can get credit for having them done. Because what are you guys doing? You're going in. If I pull the fucking text report or the email report, this is like 1,000. Because you guys are just sending texts and emails to people so that you can hit your segment accountability so that you don't have to call them. But if you were actually doing what you're supposed to do, which is to call them every day for the first week, these numbers, it's impossible for the numbers to look like this. If we come up, the numbers will get better, like 67-15, 81-21, right? Like these numbers, 89-24, 107-55, like these numbers, 119-20, 133-27, like this is what they should look like. They should be much more like this. Not this bullshit. 24-20. 25-17, 27-23. You're clearly one and done. 30% chance if you call 1 time to make a contact. 70% if you call 6 times. So if you also want to increase your contact rate, call more times.